This video is not sponsored by BetterHelp. Kanye West. Nearly everything he does creates some sort of notoriety. Personally, I think there's a raw sense of realism to his existence, not in what he believes in, not even in an artistic sense. He just seems so overtly broken outwardly to the point that he can't put it in flowery bedding and obscure the lines of truth, the way I do to myself with everyone ever. But that's a discussion for my hypothetical therapist when I stop managing my money like a povertist. I'm not drawn to Nazism or really all too intrigued by whatever thing he thinks. At the core of it, his personality as of late isn't all too different from chronically online users that are radicalized by angry white men on 4chan. The only difference is that he's rich and popular enough to make the things that incels couldn't. His predisposition to get where he is now and what makes it interesting. There's a lot of obvious things that sort of led to why he turned into the man who, quote, apparently pays people to laugh at his jokes. His mother died, the alienating feeling of being known by everyone, while your output overrides your own livelihood, his divorce, his controversial degrading public perception, and many, many other things you could probably point to. All amplified by his mental health disorders. Most of this is fairly obvious to everyone, but I think it serves as a very good foundation. I also personally think being canceled encouraged him to actually become this, since he poses himself as a postmodern contrarian ahead of the curve when the consensus restates the obvious, something he likely already knew was seen as morally obvious, but it probably made him feel like he was pulling another 808s where he felt rejected but respected later. Maybe I'm sort of proving him right by disagreeing here, but I think the difference compared to his past innovations is what he was just making things based purely off creative talent and effort, whereas now it's more so being contrarian as an unchanging default. By only allowing yourself to exist on the opposite spectrum for the sake of it, chances are you're not thinking about innovation. You're just trying to find a way that's deemed wrong because the repercussions of the past made us change course. If anything, it's kind of a regression, postmodernism, at least if you're trying to do it intentionally. Is something better served having a grasp of the present than seeing what lazy thought or action once brought people to change the status quo, you know? We're not breaking societal grounds by giving Dragon Ball Evolution a 10.420 on IMDb in the same way that new waters aren't being traversed when you deny a 0.7 rating that Killing Jews on Metacritic has. But anyway, I think this kind of serves as a testament to how inefficient the idea of canceling is to begin with. Notice how when somebody is canceled, the person in question never improves after it. They double down and get worse because you're egging them on. Being a keyboard warrior doesn't create justice. I'm sorry, I really am. You calling somebody a dumb idiot Nazi isn't as proactive as you think it is, and even if they react in a way that isn't pushing back, it's usually a half-assed and authentic apology built for public reception, not for convincing or doing. Because someone trying to truly fix their mistakes will just do it, and do it for the people they hurt, not the audience who wants to see them punished. It's not like he's truly canceled, though, right? Now it's like some sort of meme, which is kind of the pattern. If you do something society dislikes, it'll eventually become a joke rather than a shock, which is sort of where we're at now. Kanye isn't just a, oh my god, it's a Nazi. It's Kanye's back at it again with his Hitler one-liners. Let me grab a bucket of cocaine because I don't trust the retail seller and his popcorn offer. I don't even think people see him as a person anymore. Just kind of a concept. Personally, I have this feeling that the dehumanization of his character, the wanting to seem like a progressive creator, and the regressive mental health will eventually lead to suicide. One that'll he'll romanticize in the hopes of being seen as the rap's Kurt Cobain. You could honestly say it's almost foreshadowed in Power, but maybe that's parasocial speculation. Now let's say that this man, in my beautiful dark twisted fantasy fashion, decided to jump out of the window, letting everything go because it's all going to be a beautiful death. I'm not sure it'd be quite on the level of Kurt Cobain. It could be seen as a tragic thing, but I think the only reason people emphasize this with Kurt is because a lot of people, it was pent up pain, whereas Kanye outwardly leverages his pain against others. I don't deny it being possible, though. Either way, I think it would turn into a spectacle, something for people to talk about, and you just know some fucking guy would make a Mr. Beast style video within 3 minutes shouting out every shallow word from the first article that it's written about it, knowing damn well that the mentally disabled extrovert would likely be better taken out back and put out of his obnoxious misery. I don't want to say this as a threat in a encouraging way, but I do wonder if the sort of pain that he's going through would be better dealt with if it was just silenced. Not a matter of whether he deserved it or not, but not much of a clear destruction of someone's psyche can even be salvageable. I don't know how much he's tried. I just imagine it's a lot. Therapy, medication, and whatnot. And if none of it's working, I wonder if he's just going to be on a long, continuous series of unaware, self inflicted torture. How much can a person cut themselves before becomes a bleeding out situation? Again, not advice, not advocacy for anything. I'm just sort of looking at this from a reflective angle. Personally, I think if he did commit suicide, I'd start thinking, well, I guess I'm already thinking about it in an existential way, because I think Kanye and, you know what, actually Kurt Cobain and Chester, the thing that they all used to make were created by people who, at one point or another, were fairly smart, self aware, and creative. When you think about people going insane or doing illogical things, you imagine maybe a middle aged person who had to grow up faster than they could think and was left with the stagnant stupidity of someone who never learned how to grow emotionally or intellectually against their will, not people whose entire career hinged on their ability to express and understand themselves. I see it as like a testament to how much of our lives are affected by the outside world, whether we like it or not, especially someone like Kurt Cobain, who essentially lived within himself as best as he could. It kind of scares me that all the introspection and self awareness I've invested in myself could be forcefully taken away, not purely out of my own death, but by something as simple as change of environment, a change in people that someone else's death, a change in people, someone else's death. I'd like to think that I've conditioned myself for that, but you never really can, at least not entirely. I think about it a lot. If I actually manage to make it a full time artist, the personality changes that could seep into me, the paranoia of being killed by some guy I don't even know who hates what I think I promote, the ego boost that leads me to hurt myself while constructing my own grandiose delusions, losing my autonomy to a crowd of people who feel entitled to me, who tell me who I should be over the people who already have my best interest in mind. I'd like to be an artist purely because I enjoy what I do and to express myself to the world. But the thing is, I've always feared how the outside would change and manipulate my image to their standards, not because I want to, but because that's the only thing that justifies art as a valid servant to the art, to the world. It's entirely dependent on the economy, but I've already made a video on that. I'm still pressing on with the risk because I feel like it's my calling, and the shit that I make is so weird, incomprehensible, and disagreeable to the average person that I wouldn't count on it being an issue. Like, how many people really read visual novels, right? And of course, it's fucking stupid to have a fear like this when you have a whopping 87 subscribers. And an astounding 86 by the end of the year, I assure you. Anyway, getting carried away. A lot of people think about parasocial relationships mainly in the sense of fans being obsessed with the personality they're consuming, but I think of the personality itself, especially Kanye in this instance, where they have an obsessive relationship with their audience, an audience that will never truly know them, an audience that just wants your content in the same way that you just want their money, mutually isolated by the worlds each person believes the others exist in. And in that sense, I should probably acknowledge that this mere video positions me as a person who believes they know Kanye. I mean, I became an armchair psychologist for a man I'll never see. The closest I'll ever get is hearing about how he fucks bitches on an MP3 file. For all I know, this could be a persona carefully catered to a demographic infatuated with somebody so anti-PR because there's a market for that, and more likely than we know, and one that we've sort of fallen for to some extent. I'm not sure. Really, I didn't make this video for Kanye. I made it because I think of the story, even if potentially false or incorrect, has interesting talking points. I'm not some Kanye fanboy dying for his every word or a person who despises him. I'm just a person who loved his first five albums, felt indifferent about the rest, especially Vultures 1 and 2. Even ignoring the Nazis, those albums are just shit. A lot of what I know about him I hear in passing because he's virtually inescapable. And it kind of makes sense why he put himself on such a pedestal, because a lot of people already do. I don't know how to end this video. A call of action, a sort of encompassing summary, treat you all like I would with my professors, a sentence about each talking point I made in passive indifference. I'm not sure, and I don't care. So I'll just say, fuck you all. Drunken Hot Girls is a banger.